Hello, my name is Miss Amber, and I'm here with you guys today for your reading resources for English 11A. Now, we're on the first lesson in the readings from the first lesson, so that would be Perspectives in American Literature. The previous video was from The Dark Tower, and we are continuing to another reading selection for I Hear America Singing by Walt Whitman. So these are resources for students that are having a hard time understanding some of the reading selections, and we're offering these to supplement some of the ones that are a little more difficult. So we're going to read through this, especially because it is a poem. We're going to do a little bit of an overview, both of the text itself and the analysis that's in the lesson for those of you who need a little extra help. And then the next video will be about the third reading, which is I Too by Langston Hughes. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We're going to jump straight into the slide that has the reading selection in it. So if you have not completed this lesson and you cannot get to slide number 9, which is where the reading selection is located, you're going to have to go through the tutorial first to get to this point before you're able to open up that link. If you are having difficulty with Edmentum and you should have access to that slide and you do not, you might want to try clicking on the folder. Let's go ahead and open it up here. Yes, you might want to try clicking on this folder, which gives you resources for the course, and you should be able to open it up from here as well. That's another way that you can open it up. If you haven't gotten to this point in the tutorial, though, you won't have any of the information that the lesson gives you before you get to the reading selection. And we highly recommend that you actually go through the lesson and try to take your notes, look at the material, because it gives you a lot of background that can help you understand what's going on here. So without further ado, we're clicking on the link and we're opening it up. I believe this is the entire poem right here. Yes, it sure is. So we're just going to read through it. And as I did for the previous video, we're going to go through some of the more difficult words and make sure that we understand what they mean. If there's anything that I need to look up, I'll do it live while we're recording the video. Because I want students to know that it's important to actually stop when you see a word you don't understand and make sure that you understand it before you continue reading. Edmentum also, for some of their reading selections, will offer underlined definitions for some words that they think are a little harder. If you need help to understand more words than just this, don't feel bad or anything. We'll be going through more words than just the underlined ones. And you shouldn't be afraid to look up anything that you need. You guys are working on computers. Some of you are working on tablets or your phone. There should be absolutely no issue at all with you looking up vocabulary words that you are not sure about or that are stopping you from understanding the text. The most important thing for you should be making sure you understand the text. Okay, so because this is a poem and not a full story, we're going to read through the whole thing and then go back through and take a look at these words, okay? This is I Hear America Singing by Walt Whitman. I hear America singing, the varied carols I hear, those of mechanics, each one singing his, as it should be blithe and strong. The carpenter singing his as he measures his plank or beam, the mason singing his as he makes ready for work or leaves off work, the boatman singing what belongs to him in his boat, the deckhand singing on the steamboat deck, the shoemaker singing as he sits on his bench, the hatter singing as he stands, the woodcutter song, the plowboys on his way in the morning, or at noon intermission, or at sundown, the delicious singing of the mother, or of the young wife at work, or of the girl sewing or washing. Each singing what belongs to him and her and none else. The day what belongs to the day. At night, the party of young fellows, robust, friendly, singing with open mouths their strong, melodious songs. So now we're gonna go over some of these lines. This is a little bit more of an easier poem to understand. So hopefully this won't be a very long video, but we want to make sure everyone's understanding what they're reading. So there's this very first word, I, says, who is the speaker of this poem? So basically that's what they want you to think of. Who would be the person who is writing about this in the poem? It's easy to misunderstand. The person who writes the poem is not always the person whose perspective the poem is about. So think about, just before we get started, think about, for example, when you read a book, right? So when you read a book like, for example, Harry Potter, right? So that book was written by J.K., right? J.K. Rowling. Now, she, even though she's writing about things that happen to Harry, Harry is not the same as JK, right? So it works the same way in poetry. Even when sometimes the main character says I, it's the perspective of the main character that we're talking about here. We're not just talking about the writer of the story. It's always important to ask at the beginning of the story or poem if the person speaking in the poem or story and the author are the same. In this case, they could actually be the same. But in some cases, they're definitely different. So they just want you to think about that question while we're going through it. So this first line, I hear America singing, the varied carols I hear. So carols are songs. Varied means a lot of different things. When something varies, there are a lot of different possibilities. So there are different types of songs that this person is hearing when they hear America singing. The rest of the poem goes into different types of jobs that people have in America. So those of mechanics, each one singing his as it should be blithe or strong. So blithe here, they've got it underlined, means glad or cheerful disposition. So they're singing their songs happily, like they're glad and with strong voices. Now, Walt Whitman probably picked the word strong here because if you're a mechanic, you have to be strong to work with those types of machines, right? So then in the next line, we have the carpenter singing his as he measures his plank or beam. So by plank or beam, we mean strips of wood. Those are planks or beams. And if you're the type of person that needs to look it up, you can actually search for plank here. And if we come down, let's see, we'll go to plank definition because planking is actually an exercise. But if you look for definition, you find out here a long, thin, flat piece of timber usually used in building or flooring, and there are some pictures here. And then for beam, it's the same thing. If we search, because beam means a lot of different things, we'll actually have to come here and look. So if we go to definition, we've got a long, sturdy piece. Yeah, a long, sturdy piece of square timber or metal spanning an opening or part of a building, usually to support the roof or the floor above. So they're basically very similar things. So we have the mason singing as he makes ready for work or leaves off work. So for those of you who don't know what a mason is, we're going to search for this as well. We're going to go mason definition and add that there. And a mason is a builder or worker in stone. So I'm sure that most of you or some of you have heard of like Freemasons in terms of the organization. But before that was a big organization, Masonry was the art of working things with stone. So if you helped build buildings, mixing cement, stone, brick, that kind of thing, you were known as a Mason. So we've got, you know, like a stone worker singing as he makes ready for work or leaves off work. So the rest of the poem continues pretty much just like this. We have the boatmen, that's people who take people in boats to go back and forth. We have deckhand. A deck is the top floor or level of a boat where people can, you know, like walk around in the open air. So a deckhand is someone who helps with their hands on the boat. There are a lot of different jobs that use the word hands to sort of relate what the work is. Usually if you're a hand of any kind, it means that you're a helper or an assistant. You're someone that does work on that level of the boat. And it says the deckhand singing on the steamboat deck. So they're telling you what type of boat the deckhand is on. So we've got shoemaker next. That's pretty simple. A person who makes shoes. As he sits on his bench, a hatter. That's a person who makes hats. So these two are related. These two people make clothes, just like the deckhand and the boatman both work on a boat. So he's grouping different types of workers together based on what they do. So we've got the woodcutter song, and you might be questioning, well, why isn't woodcutter up here with the carpenter? But that's because they are not a woodcutter in the same way that you cut wood just for building things. They're a woodcutter as in their job is just to cut down trees. The trees that they cut down can be used for lots of different things. People will buy the wood and use them for whatever it is they want to use it for. But a woodcutter is kind of like a forestry outside in the wilderness sort of thing, instead of like a carpenter who takes wood that's already been cut and shaped and uses that to build things. So the woodcutter is grouped together with the plowboy. So this is a young male field worker who steers animals that pull a plow. Because back during this time, they did not actually have an automated plow that drives the same way that we have plow machines now. A plow was actually like a long strip of metal that you would attach to animals, and the animals would pull the plow along to plow the land. That's how people used to do it. So since the plowboy works like on the farm on like a lot of land, and the woodcutter also works on open land in forest areas and stuff, they're grouped together. So then we have the delicious singing of the mother or of the young wife at work, or the girl sewing or washing. So he includes women who do types of work. He includes a mother as a worker. He also includes young wife as a worker, and also girls who do work like sewing or patching up things for people. So he's also including the work that people do at home for their families as a type of work. And that says something about Walt Whitman and his views on who counts as a worker and who is a productive member of society, especially when you remember he was born during this time. He was born in 1819. So down here we have each, that means every single person, each singing what belongs to him or her and to none else. So he's saying they're all singing their songs that belong to the work that they do. So he's saying that even though they're singing together, they're each doing their part that applies to them. And he says, the day what belongs to the day, and the night and at night, the party of young fellows, robust, friendly. So robust means healthy, strong, vigorous. Usually if we say things have a robust flavor, it means that the flavor is strong. So robust people are people that have strong personalities or who are built strong. So he's saying everyone's doing their part. The day belongs to the day. The stuff that happens at night belongs at night. Everyone is playing their part. So he's breaking down the Song of America into the different parts that everyone contributes together. And then at the end, he says, singing with open mouths their strong, melodious songs. So he's using a lot of positive language here to describe the songs of America. So we're going to close this and come back here and then look at the analysis. So it says here, and I Hear America Singing, Whitman presents the United States as a merging, that means bringing together, of different types of American voices. He describes Americans through what they sing as they work. And then we have each singing what belongs to him or her and none else, singing with open mouths their strong melodious songs. That's the end. So down here it says this chorus of voices rises up to describe the American people as different yet sharing the same vision. So that's the entire point of this poem. Their identity is an industrious, motivated, and forward-thinking people. That's what he views America as. By using workers from different occupations, that's jobs, with different perspectives, that's points of view, Whitman allows American readers to see themselves reflected in the poem. So he tried to include all the different people that he feels are a part of America, and he tried to include basically most of the important types, like big umbrellas of work that were well known at the time. And he establishes a connection between Americans of every skill and occupation, from boatmen to plowboys. So by mentioning them all together in this poem, he's basically creating a group where he says, you count, and all you other people, you all count. So by making this connection, he illustrates or shows us the idea that every American has an equal opportunity to be part of the American voice. Like he even includes people that work out in the fields, which are usually jobs that are not considered to be professional, or at least at this time wasn't. He also includes the women and the work that they were well known for doing at this time. So basically, he wants to use this poem to bring people together. His vision of America is a vision where everyone contributes and everything that everyone does is important. It's a very wholesome type of poem. And then down here, it says, with the title, I Hear America Singing, Whitman emphasizes the impact, that means the importance, of a nation that sings rather than one that simply speaks or murmurs. So when you're speaking, you're talking regularly, like I am. And when you murmur, you're kind of murmuring quietly, right? But he talks about singing. People enjoy singing. It's a positive thing. People can sing proudly if they're confident about their voice. And singing reflects hope. And that's what this poem suggests. So the workers sing strong, melodious songs instead of quiet or unassuming ones. So he picked his words very carefully to characterize the fact that everyone in America works together, and that's what makes the nation great. Many texts have been written describing the hopeful, positive nature of the American identity. However, others explore the side of that identity that is more discouraged or downtrodden. And this lesson does cover that with the next poem, which is I Too. And also, we did something similar with From the Dark Tower. From the Dark Tower was a poem written from the perspective of African Americans and their experience in America, which is not as positive as this one. So yes, I think that that's about it for this poem. Let me go ahead and stop sharing. Hopefully this video helped to give you a little bit of insight as to the poem, what it would mean. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out for a tutoring session with me or any of the other English tutors. And I don't think that there's much more to say about this one. That poem had a couple hard words, but for the most part, it was pretty easy to understand. So this is Miss Amber signing off, and good luck with the rest of your English class.